This evening we're going to start on Lesson 5 in the book, Has the Kingdom Come? And a lot of times what I'm tempted to do when I have one of those questions is just say on this one, yes, and let's go to the next chapter. But you know I wouldn't do that. There's too much material on this that needs to be covered. And I'm going to skip down to the introduction on the book, and basically it's Daniel 2 and verse 44 is the introduction. That in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Now, as I said, I'm going to have, said this last week, a lot of additional material that's not in the book. And we're going to start with the background of this prophecy of Daniel in Daniel 2:44. To do that, I almost really need to go back to verse 1, but we're not going to go that far, except to simply mention that in the second year, and we'll notice that later on, of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, he had a dream. He couldn't remember what it was, but it disturbed him. And so he called in the wise men and said, tell me the dream and give me the interpretation. They also put a condition on it. If you don't do it, you're all going to be executed from all over the nation, all over the world. They were, to say the least, beside themselves, and said, no one can do that. You tell us what the dream was, and we'll tell you the interpretation. You know, I have a feeling even if he had remembered the dream and was able to tell them what the dream was, they still wouldn't have been able to tell him the interpretation. But we don't know on that. That's just my speculation. Well, that's true. The wise men and all these people were supposed to be able to do that. At least tell them the interpretation of it. You know, if you have a dream, you can interpret it. You could probably go to 15 different people and they'd interpret it 15 different ways. And who's to say which one's right and which one's wrong? And that's the problem with a lot of these things that go on even today. But finally Daniel comes in to the king, and we read in verse 16 that he went in and desired of the king that he would give him time, that he would show the king the interpretation. Basically he's saying, don't be so hasty. Give me time and I'll tell you the dream and the interpretation of it. So Nebuchadnezzar said basically okay. Skip down to verse 19 and we'll read through verse 23. Then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said, blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise and knowledge to them that know understanding. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth with him. I thank thee and praise thee, O thou God of my fathers, who hast given me wisdom and might, and hast made known unto me now what we desired of thee. For thou hast now made known unto us the king's matter. God revealed it to him. You could make probably a whole bunch of sermons on what Daniel says in relationship or to and about God in this. It's a marvelous lesson that we won't go into, but if you read those things, that wisdom and might are his. He changeth the times, the seasons. He removes kings. He sets up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise. He gives knowledge to them that know understanding. He reveals the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and in the light dwells in him. Each one of those statements is very powerful in and of itself. So maybe that'll be Tim's lessons over the next few weeks or something. I'm just joking. I'm not telling him to preach that, but God gives Daniel that knowledge of both the dream and the interpretation of it. Daniel then goes into Nebuchadnezzar and tells Nebuchadnezzar the dream and the interpretation, starting in verse 27. Okay,
What's confusing to us, especially us, you Christians, even someone like me, Daniel, God has given this stuff in capsules, what is in long form to him, and he don't have to research and study it. He's got it all already at his disposal. He can quote it in verbatim and say it in order, but we can't do that. So it's hard to.
No, we have to study.
Huh?
We have to study. It was given to them.
And that's the person in the world make it clear to them, and not always easy unless you do a lot of reading.
I said we have to study. That's the way God designed it. But starting in verse 27, going through verse 35, we have the dream. Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, the secret things which the king hath demanded cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers show unto the king. But there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Just to pause there for a minute. All of these others he's setting apart. Here's the God of heaven, the one who created all things. He's the only one. All of these others that you've relied on all through these years, they can't do these things. Only the God of heaven can. And so a lot of people this shows a little bit of Daniel's character as well. A lot of people would have just gone in and said, well, I'm going to tell you the dream and the interpretation. And he would have taken the credit for himself. Daniel wasn't worried about that. He gives all the credit to God. But he says, thy dream and the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. As for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed, what should come to pass hereafter. And he that revealeth secrets make known to thee what shall come to pass. But as for me, the secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living, but for their sakes that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that thou mightest know the thoughts of thy heart. Thou, O king, sawest and behold a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood above thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part iron and part clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image on his feet that were made, or that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone which thou smote the image, became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. That would have been a hard dream to forget. But it wasn't all that complicated as far as a dream is concerned. Just this image with kind of looks weird. And a stone is cut out of the mountain, hits that image on the foot, and just destroys it all. And then that little stone grows and fills the whole earth. So he's given him the dream. But now then the big question, what's the interpretation of it? Well, we start in verse 36 and go through verse 45, and we're told the interpretation. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou art, O king, art a king of kings. For the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hast made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. And whereas thou sawest the feet of toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it the strength of iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. and the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Now then, the text that we have here specifically concerns Daniel's interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Nebuchadnezzar, and I don't know how that's not too bad, but I could have made it a little bit larger probably and didn't know that. Let's see if I can do that real quick. No, not going to work. So if I was at my computer, I could make it larger, but you're going to have to settle with that. Nebuchadnezzar was the greatest of the Babylonian monarchs. In fact, if you look at the Babylonian monarchs, let's see. Nope, that's that one. You will probably, wrong one. I'll get the right one in a minute. That's the next one that I wanted to go to, so it's probably this top one. You probably know only two of them. You might have heard of Nabopolassar, who reigned from 625 to 604. And if you find other dates, that's good. You can argue with the date givers. But he was the first of the kings of Babylon. The second, Nebuchadnezzar. Now that's the one that we are so familiar with. From 604 to 568 BC. Then the third, the one that followed him, was evil Merodach. And if I mispronounce these names, you can do a better job. Feel free. I haven't studied it, but I have always wondered why he was named evil. Why was he named evil? That's his name, evil Merodach.
That's a good question. I never thought of it.
But he reigned from 561 to 560. So he didn't reign very long. Then Nerigalissar was the next king, 559 to 556 BC. Then this next one, and Labasha Marduk, or whatever that other name is. He's called both in history. That's about a good one to do with this name. Labosara, whatever. He reigned 556. Again, a very short reign. Then Nabonidus started reigning at 556 and reigned 539. Belshazzar, who's the name that we probably should recognize as being the other one of these kings, he was actually a co-regent of Nabonidus from 553 to 539.
So are you saying that Lavash and Belshazzar were both co-regents, or you're not saying that? I'm trying to get straight what's being conveyed here. Are they both co-regents, or they're not?
Who?
I get
Who?
Lavashki, what you call his name, and Belshazzar, are they both, those two at the
No.
bottom of that list?
I said Nabonidus and Belshazzar were co-regents for that period of time. Look at the dates, 553 to 539. And Nabonidus was ruler by himself from 556 to 553. But his reign continued with Belshazzar on to 539 as co-regents. And of course, Belshazzar is the one who had the drunken feast, and the hand or the finger came out and wrote upon the wall, "Mene, mene, tekel, upharsin," which means what? Okay, thou hast been weighed in the balances and found wanting. And thus your kingdom is going to be divided between two kingdoms, actually, the Medes and Persians, which we'll get back to in just a minute. But Nebuchadnezzar who is mainly the one that we're looking at tonight, he was, of course, the famed conqueror of Judah and Jerusalem, but he was also the conqueror of the entire world. There it is. It was therefore during this period of exile in which this is given. Remember that in 606, Nebuchadnezzar conquered Jerusalem, and Daniel was carried away at that time along with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now then, you all remember Abednego, right? They were all carried away at 606. Jerusalem rebelled against him, and so he came in 597 and conquered them again. And there was a second carrying away into captivity. And then they rebelled again a third time, and in 586, Nebuchadnezzar comes and utterly destroys Jerusalem. Okay.
Can you break it down on it? What did Nebuchadnezzar come again, or was it another ruler later came in 581? I know they came again 5 years later. I get kind of confused about that sometimes. What was that?
I don't know of them coming again in 5 years after that.
False history that we've been handed?
I've never heard that before.
Well, I've been confused
then. That may be, but I've never heard that.
Excuse me for looking, I'm sorry for taking time.
But it stated at chapter 2 and verse 1 of Daniel that this dream took place during his second year of his reign. So it would be during that period of exile. It says, the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him. So it would probably be around 604, 603 time frame. And I hope you all are writing all of this down, because it's all going to be on the test. The dream itself consists of 4 earthly kingdoms, of which the Babylonian kingdom was the first one. He was, and Daniel said, "You are the head of gold." So whether it be Nebuchadnezzar himself or the Babylonian Empire, probably the Babylonian Empire being the first of these four world empires. Let me add that I'm saying four world empires. The dispensationalists in particular say that there are five predicted here. The fifth one being the feet of clay and iron is going to be a new world order, basically, in history that would be representative of the Roman Empire, represented by the European, or consisting of the European Union, basically. And so that would be the fifth world empire, and during that fifth world empire is when the stone comes and breaks the image. There's only four. Nebuchadnezzar, and I'm going to give you a little bit different dates, the Babylonian Empire, than what's on there that you can't read anyway. It is dated from 625 to 538 BC as being their empire, that Babylonian Empire. Now, I wanted to bring in Daniel, the 7th chapter as well, and that's shown here, where basically another dream, but it was for beast. And that's why I say four world empires. You can't get a fifth out of Daniel 7. There's no comparison there. So he is only describing four empires, not five, in this great image. But in Daniel 7, in verses 3 and verse 4, Babylon is described as a beast. It says, "And four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from one from another. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it." Now that beast like a lion that had eagle's wings was again this first world empire of Nebuchadnezzar, or the Babylonian Empire. The second, let me just put out here, let me see. That would be Daniel 7 verses, I'm not writing large enough, but 3 and 4. The second empire is the Medo-Persian Empire. It is that in the image it was represented by the chest and arms of silver. Those two empires, the Medes and the Persians, united under Cyrus in 538 BC, and they continued until 330 BC as the ruling empire. It is represented in Daniel 7 and verse 5. as a beast like unto a bear. It says, and behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise and devour much flesh. The Medo-Persian Empire did not really care about riches and goods. They had the silver, all that they wanted. That's why the image is representative of silver. That which Daniel sets forth, each figure represented that nation. So when it says the breast and arms of silver, they had silver galore. They wore silver as far as their armor. So it's not something that would just, some image that doesn't have any detail of truth. It was so accurate, these images, that atheists and skeptics said it could not have been given prior to that time. And so they tried to move the date of Daniel back into the 200s and 300s because of the accuracy of what is written here. Now, of course, they can't do that. It doesn't work out, especially from an archaeological standpoint. But the Third Empire was represented by the belly and thighs of brass. This is the Grecian Empire, or as many times it's put, Alexander the Great. His empire. It's dated from 330 to 323. It ended at the death of Alexander the Great. At that time, his kingdom was divided to his 4 generals. Let's see with that. Nope, wrong one. Which one? 330 to 323. The 4 generals. And again, these names are, if you can do better, feel free. Lysimachus, he ruled Asia Minor. Tim probably knows how to pronounce all these real easy, but most of them, okay. Seleucus ruled Syria and Babylon.
How do you spell him? Seleucus?
It's right there.
Oh, okay. Excuse me.
Seleucus. Ptolemy. He ruled Macedonia, Thracia, Syria, and Egypt. That's pretty good. Cassander ruled Greece and the neighboring countries. So that was the 4 generals of Alexander the Great. They just basically divided up the kingdom of Alexander the Great into 4 kingdoms, for each one for each of them.
Where's Thracia at?
Thracia.
Where's Thracia at?
It's in that area, same area. Why don't you find why don't you get a map and you can find it?
I'll just start.
Okay. You can find it fairly easy then. Just as a kind of a tie-in, the Seleucids that ruled Syria and Babylon, they hated the Jews, but they were they were coming down and making war, and they were stopped by the Ptolemies. And so they had to retreat, and they were mad. So mad that they took it out on Jerusalem. And there's then what takes place that's called the abomination of desolation, in which the Seleucids offered a pig on the altar in Jerusalem. Of course, a pig was an unclean animal to the Jews, so it made it even worse. That also gave rise to the Maccabees, who fought against them to great extent. And if you get a Roman Catholic Bible, you will find 1st and 2nd Maccabees dealing with their revolt against the Seleucids and the Seleucid Empire. But that's kind of as an aside. That part's for free. In Daniel, the 7th chapter, and verse 6, it is represented by the beast that's as a leopard. It says, "After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it." Rather frightening looking beast, if you ask me. Then the 4th empire is represented by the legs of iron, and then the feet partly iron and partly clay. It is the Roman Empire. It is given different dates as to its beginning. The date that I'm going to give is 31 BC with Augustus Caesar, or Caesar Augustus, whichever way you want to put it. And then falling in AD 476. And if you look, various dates will be given as to the fall, because it wasn't just a one-time thing, it happened over time. So some will give an earlier or even later date, but it is in Daniel, the 7th chapter, and verse 7, a diverse beast. "After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns." So a very diverse beast. Now then, as I said, going back to this image, in Daniel 7, there is no fifth kingdom, other earthly kingdom. And so the dispensational premillennialist, when they come along, well, this image in Daniel 2 has 5 earthly kingdoms, this reformed European Union, then where's the image in Daniel the 7th chapter that represents it? There's not one. What you have is, initially the Roman Empire was very strong. Over time it became weak. And thus that's why you have the feet of clay mixed with the iron. Partly strong, partly weak. Rome, or the Roman Empire, was not, in a sense, conquered by another nation. With all of these others, you have another nation coming and conquering them. Roman Empire did not fall that way. It fell internally. Because of the wickedness of the people, they became weak, and thus they fell as a result of that moral or immorality. So that's the weakness of it. But Daniel did dream of another, or Nebuchadnezzar did dream of another kingdom. That kingdom is the church, which would be established by God. That's the God of heaven cutting out a part of that mountain and it coming and smiting the great image. And our text in Daniel 2:44 is dealing with that kingdom. Daniel refers to this kingdom as being set up. It was established by the God of heaven. Thus it is a heavenly kingdom. And that, of course, is the subject of this lesson. Our book says Paul refers to it in 2 Timothy 4:18, where he states, "And the Lord shall deliver me from every evil work and will preserve me into his heavenly kingdom." I don't personally believe that that's a good passage to use in relationship to this. That verse is discussing heaven. And I know there's not a great deal of difference between heaven and the church, but it's dealing with that heavenly home, not the church. And because Andrew rang the bell, I'll end there, and we'll start with that then, Lord willing, next time.